we have a very exciting episode lined up for you guys. So stay tuned.
Hi everyone, welcome to the RCL podcast. My name is Janvi.
And I'm Saprida. And today we have a very special guest with us today. And that is Ishita Shome. So she is one of the biggest and youngest General Counsels of India. Columbia High School graduate. She has keen interest in AI and deep tech, and she has immense knowledge in it as well. And so we would like to know from you, could you introduce yourself?
Thanks so much for having me today. I'm actually really grateful to meet both of you and also to have this opportunity to speak to all of you through this podcast. Yes, I have had a fairly interesting journey, which the way it has kind of panned out, part of it by luck, part of it by effort. Have had a global spanning career. Started out working in Dubai in a law firm, in a top tier law firm called Afridin Angel, where I was a corporate and M&A associate. Worked there for 6 years, moved on to US, and really speaking, like my interest in AI, tech, and tech law started sort of taking its roots when I moved to the US. I got an opportunity to work as an in-house counsel in a STEM research and a STEM foundation company called AAT Foundation. It was a branch out of Shark Tank US. And the producer of one of the producers of Shark Tank US started her own company called AAT Foundation to support kids who were innovating products and to bring those products into market. They were looking out for an in-house counsel. So when I graduated from Columbia Law School, I ended up working as an intern with her initially, and then I just joined her company, her startup, for a year or two. And that's what sort of brought in the seeds of tech law, M&A law, and becoming a tech attorney. Very soon I kind of moved back when the startup scene in India started totally exploding. And I worked with, after moving to India, I worked with a very boutique law firm called Ikigai Law, which is a TMT specialist, and many of you may know about it. It's really big in tech, it's really big in policy. I was the VC lead for that firm for almost 2 or 3 years, beyond which I just moved to Delhi, worked there for a while in the fintech sector, and now I'm at Indiehood Private Limited, which is a startup which is in the tech and AI space as well. So really have had a opportunity to work in different parts of the world and represent and take on matters which have been meaningful and contributing to the area and sphere that I would really love. And happy to speak about any kind of inputs that I can give to anyone who's looking to venture out into these fields and areas from a student or a graduate student perspective.
Wow, that sounds like you've had quite a roller coaster of a journey. I mean, traveling countries, whether it's the UAE, whether it's the USA, I mean, simply sounds impressive. And as Saprida mentioned, you're one of the youngest general counsels in India, right? So what do you believe are the core skills that a GC is supposed to have? Like, what do you think a GC needs to possess to get a deal done? So could you throw a little light on that?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest value add you can bring in as a GC is to be diverse, and to be diverse in every area apart from just like a niche area. You need to be extremely curious, extremely adaptable, and extremely business minded. So those are the 3 skills I would say which are sort of a bedrock into what a GC stands for. You cannot sort of pigeonhole yourself into saying that I'm a specialist here, or you sort of have to sort of throw away whatever you have learned, and the willingness to relearn on the ground should be absolute and immediate, right? So that's something that I really think has sort of helped shape my approach towards becoming an in-house counsel, and also the way you are able to sort of handle different disciplines of law in one role. It's like a GC is like a law firm all encompassed into one, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of agility and adaptability that comes into play here, right?
Yes.
You cannot have a one-track mind, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. And you need not always that sense of judgment should also be there, like where you are always trying to when you are being taught law, for example, a lot of the times you are sort of always told that this is a very serious discipline. You have to always take an approach of seriousness, and you need to sort of show that you know a lot more jargon, a lot more legalese, which when you become a GC, while you can speak all those jargons and legalese, that communication skill should take a back seat, right?
Yes.
You need to be a great communicator. You need to be able to reach out to your other peers in different departments and speak their tongue. You need to know when to sort of quickly move the conversation to a different to be on a different wavelength. All these things become really important, which you wouldn't really think about or emphasize on when you're just learning law. So this, to my mind, is a bedrock skill of a GC. You have to be an excellent communicator. You have to be able to be simple, adaptable, clear, concise in your communication. You need to be able to understand what are the different areas that you will be working with. Be curious, ask the right questions, constantly
Yes.
keep asking questions about your role, and hit the ground running after you're done doing the informational interviews with the different stakeholders. So yes, curiosity, adaptability, agility, clear communication without legalese, I would say, is like absolutely key for any in-house counsel who's coming into the profession.
Yeah, sounds interesting. So you kind of need to be like a jack of all trades in this situation, right? You need to have like a variety of skill sets to rather like ace the role as a whole. So I totally understand.
Yeah,
that.
I think jack of all trades, and I mean to an extent, yes, but also having a very, very strong understanding of your own area also, of course. Because you cannot have any compromise in terms of how technical your skills are, right? If you're a lawyer and you want to remain a lawyer, the people have to respect you for what you bring to the table. That said, let's just drop the jargons, right? Like I think if I can just say something in a very simple, clear and concise manner, I would prefer that, as opposed to bringing in my expertise by making it very hard for the people to understand, or very hard for the people to sort of follow my thought chain. If anyone is struggling to follow my thought chain, then I've just not done the job well
True,
enough. Right?
exactly. Let's say I think simplicity is key in such matters.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So I had a question. Okay, so since you have keen interest in AI, right, and we have this debate that AI is going to replace lawyers.
Yeah.
So what would you want to tell about that?
Oh, I think if AI is able to replace lawyers, I mean, no one is going to be happier than me, right? It's just waiting to happen. If AI can replace any kind of laborious, work which is repetitive in nature, I will be the happiest, because then you get to do something more interesting and break new things, right? But we are a little bit far off from there, I would say. And the reason I'm saying is because AI still hasn't developed the skill set to adapt to different specific situations. The applicability of law to specific situations still takes human emotions, unfortunately, and human emotions is what drives a lawyer, right? So say suppose a client comes and sits in front of me today, he may have 5 options. AI will do the legal research and will be able to give you 100 options and say that these are all situations which are similar to you. Whether that particular option works for that person, the regulatory environment, the judgment skills, for that we still need a human, unfortunately, right now. So whilst we are kind of very close to what the kind of exploring the capabilities of where AI is in terms of breaking the legal profession, we're not close enough in terms of the analytical skills required and the advisory skills required out of AI right now. So I want to be at a place where I'm actually pushing AI into that space of giving me more liberty to take on these kinds of complex matters, and just like letting the AI take care of the laborious, repetitive, iterative matters. So there I think that AI is absolutely amazing to come and help me out as a lawyer, or come and help my profession out as a lawyer. And the more I have of AI and the more personal it becomes, the better it is for me to get to matters which which are more nuanced, which are more complex, and which probably require a faster turnaround time. So if anything is helping me giving a faster turnaround time, I'm the happiest. So I think it's my friend. So
Yes, absolutely.
But like, don't you think? I mean, emotions, as you said, emotions are important. Then we've been always taught, as in this field of law,
Yeah.
we've been taught that we need to keep our emotions aside and all of that. So, what do you think of that?
I think that's also like true in the sense that it is analytical to the extent of being able to apply what AI really does is it applies it on the face value, right?
Yeah.
We interpret it. So that's where emotions come into play, that kind of nuance. And I'm not saying that it's not possible. If it is possible, as I said, I'll be the happiest, right? It's going to make a lot of this like work, which is sort of very, very baseline, into a faster iteration process. If anything helps push the envelope and helps get our clients better deliverables and better products, I'm all for it, right? But at this point, I think that this agility, that emotional and the interpretational agility is missing in terms of AI. So when we get there, I'm 100% sure that we will be working in tandem, and there will be ways in which we will, as human beings, evolve to make space for humans to continue functioning in certain specific roles, right? So I personally do not think that this is a threat. It will only enhance and develop the way we work. And it's like saying computers will replace human beings. That's not happened. It's sort of never going to happen, because unfortunately at the end of a computer is a human being who's manufacturing it. So I'm not sure if they are trying to keep it from the public, but I would say that this is how evolution sort of takes place, and I'm all for evolution. I think the more things that you get in terms of getting better products, getting better turnarounds, getting better solutions to problems within shorter timelines, I think everyone wins then. I don't think anyone loses, and that's what lawyers should be all about. It's about creating wins from your side and from the client's side, and if something wins for the client, it wins for you all the time, right? That's the end goal for a lawyer, I would say, and that's what people should be focused on, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, ultimately it's all about like getting a win for the client, right? So I'd like to ask one thing though. You did mention that there are a lot of skill sets that go into becoming a general counsel, and of course there are a lot of labor intensive processes as well, such as legal research, etc. So tell us, what is a day in a life of a GC exactly like? Like, take us through a day in Ishita's life as a general counsel.
So most days, I think we are also a very small team, so I can only speak for a startup of our size. So we in my case at least, I have a very sort of a lean team that I'm working with. Not as many stakeholders, but in terms of just starting out a day, what it would look like was that we'll have a call to begin with, like with the leadership team. We'll get to know each other's strategic inputs in terms of where we are at in terms of different projects. Then that will be followed with a bit of conversation with the external counsels and working with them to figure out where they're at with their projects that has been sort of assigned to them. Then we, at around 3 p.m. or something, is finally the quiet zone when you're not attending as many meetings, and you just go into your whole review and research and your kind of deliverables for the day. You spend the rest of the day working on review and different kind of, I mean, you will be interacting again with the likes of the finance department or the HR department, whoever, on a need basis, to kind of get inputs on the review that you're doing, then finalizing those contracts, and then working on the bigger projects sometime in the later evenings. So for example, I'm doing a few M&A projects right now as well, which sort of take me to the later part of the day. I kind of keep it when interactions are at the lowest, and then in the evening you sort of wrap up and stuff. So we at IndieHood definitely want to make sure that people wrap up in like good enough time. So there's a lot of emphasis on having a work-life balance and being able to sort of ensure that your evening doesn't sort of extend up to late nights and stuff. So unless there are like really urgent pressing things, we like to try to keep it like at a balanced time of maybe 8 or 9 or maybe even 7:38, like that basically.
Yes, that's interesting. And I appreciate that your organization promotes like a healthy work-life balance, right? Because when you take the legal industry at a larger picture, it's often neglected, especially when you see in like law firms or like in-house counsels. You often see them working like late nights, almost like 2 to 3 a.m., etc.,
Yeah.
right? So there are a lot of like diversity and mental health like initiatives that should be brought about in these firms. So do you think a GC can play any role in like implementing these?
Absolutely. I think we are so skilled with this kind of conversation, and we should so like kind of leverage our platform when it comes to these dialogues, right? Because we are the ones who are at the very get-go reviewing these policies, ensuring that the employment contracts have a certain kind of bandwidth for these kinds of issues. So if the GC steps in at that juncture to have these policy conversations with the stakeholders, to sort of drive why this kind of will drive up the recruitment process for us, why this enhances the pool of people that we are working with, it enhances the kind of dialogues and the culture that comes in, that's something that a GC can really add value to. So to my mind, that's a conversation that is critical and a strategic role that a GC can totally play. In our organization, at least the GC has been given a table in all leadership meetings to bring that strategic conversation into play. Diversity and inclusion is a very, very important element in our organization, and we want to be as inclusive as possible, and not just about like different kinds of people, but also people from different backgrounds. So I think it's a very important and sensitive dialogue to have, and it's also very important to keep that key sort of in the center for in terms of your ability to recruit from a diverse pool of people. Having said that, I think we are still a long way to go from really formalizing this. As such, in India at least, I do not think that we have a very formal network or a framework around it, and that is where the GCs can sort of really make a difference, because you're sort of setting out those corporate governance, and if your company becomes big, or if your company is really doing well, it becomes a precedent. So so say for example a Tata, why does a Tata sort of stand out? Because Tata is Tata, and therefore it set a precedent in terms of the kind of culture that it promotes. So I think that there a conversation with the GC and a strategic role of a GC is absolutely vital.
Yes, absolutely. So, since you mentioned that GCs play a crucial role in this, right? How would you envision a framework, like given that you had to devise one for your organization or for any large-scale organization? Let's say you mentioned Tata, for instance, so maybe like Unilever or any other like enterprise. How would you envision like a DEI framework or something that promotes mental health for its employees?
I think the key questions is to actually go back and survey your own employees in terms of instead of sort of having a top-down approach where you're going back and just saying that this is what I think is great for you guys. It depends on a different industries, right? So a Tata would function with different sort of framework. Tata has power, and Tata has housing, and Tata has like energy and all of that. Whereas in a tech platform, you will have a different set of like people coming and people walking in and giving you a different kind of vibe. So they may want like more independence, they may want less control, they may want less visibility, they may want more visibility. So the starting point always will be the employees. So your historical data should be let's ask the people who are getting affected and impacted by this conversation, and once you have them weighing in on this, and then you have the management weighing in on it as well, then you sort of build a framework around that. So to my mind, this has always been the easiest route to take, and it could take days or months to come up with the exact thing that pleases everyone, but it's worth the effort, because at the end of the day, you will know that the stakeholders all had their say in this whole conversation.
True. It's like Rome isn't built in a day, and neither is a good DEI policy, I guess.
Absolutely. And then of course you'll always study all the trends, and you'll always ensure that you've done your market research and presented them with different options of what is available, and that's for you to do, and the rest of it is coming in from the survey that you sort of carry out from the different stakeholders.
Yeah.
So how was your life in law school? And then also, how did you get into tech law? Were you like always interested in it? Or how did you get the idea of tech law? Because we I personally do not know anything about all of this right now in law school. So how did you get to know about it?
So I think it was always like, at least in law school, I was the most unserious student you would ever meet.
That makes two of us.
Yeah.
So I was out there to just have fun, and that really paid off because that sort of helped me dabble in a lot of different areas and different fields, exposed me to mooting, exposed me to different kinds of extracurriculars, and then very slowly and steadily I knew what I did not want to do, basically. And that really worked in the sense that I just started like zeroing down what sense, like what fueled my passions. So at that time I was very keen on understanding. I mean, I was watching a lot of Ali McBeal and thinking, oh wow, this is amazing, this is corporate law, this is who I want to be. And I went into, with a very steady hand, I went into working as a corporate associate in Dubai for almost 6 years. And then very slowly I also got to know, fortunately for me, like corporate law sort of captures a lot of other areas as well. So I got to advise a small fishery company, I got to advise a pizza company, I got to advise a tech company. And when things started like working out in that sense, that I started advising tech companies, it became very, very interesting because the kind of problems that we were solving for them was what sort of piqued my interest the most. So that's how tech law really happened for me. And as I said, then I went to New York and I worked for this STEM company as well. And I just thought that this is it. This is sort of me working and enabling and empowering people who are innovating and bringing new products into being. So, which basically means that I play a very, very small part, but I play some sort of part in their story, and that really helped me sort of became foundational in terms of what I wanted to do. So that's this like long and short of what sort of piqued my interest in tech law. But more importantly, it is just about being very, very pro towards understanding the space really well, constantly keeping yourself educated in terms of what are the new trends, keeping yourself up to date with what are the regulatory requirements. And in my area, I love to sort of deep dive into data privacy, deep dive into what is the current policies around information gathering, what are the kind of consents you require, and understanding where it starts, how AI tech starts impacting humans, because that's what technology is all about. It is centered around humans. So that's where technology law becomes really, really interesting, and that is a complete path-breaking sort of path that you have as a lawyer, because you delve in not just tech law, you deal with how it impacts humans.
True, absolutely. And like tech is such an emerging field right now, and it's definitely not going to slow down anytime soon. It's just going to skyrocket from here.
Yeah.
And with all of these like nuances in technology that's coming through, I feel like tech law is definitely like a great career option for students to pursue towards the long run, because
Absolutely.
I don't see anything but upsides here.
Yeah, I think tech law is a very broad term. There are so many little things like services agreements, or IP, intellectual property, patent designing. You have data privacy. You have a wide array to choose from in terms of tech. I mean, we can put it all under one umbrella and just say this is all tech law. But at the end of the day, there is a lot more under the cover, which you can specialize in, which you can sort of deep dive in, which you can become an expert in, and really become like one of those people who people lean on in terms of as an authority. And that, I think that really helps. If you like a certain subject, I just by way of an example, one of my colleagues has now gone into gaming law, right? And he is a complete pioneer, and he absolutely loves this field of gaming law, and it's an upcoming field. It's got a lot of nuances, a lot of licensing and regulatory challenges. These are the kinds of things that people will lean in on. Like, these are the kind of skill sets which will become really relevant in the society at large, in my opinion. And I think this is the time that you take an interest and you go for it, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And yeah, so any of you tech law enthusiasts watching, you know whom to reach out to if you want any insights. It was lovely talking to you, Ishita.
Thanks so much for having me, and I hope to hear back from as many of you who would love to take this up as a serious profession, who would love to just gain up and skill up in these areas. Happy to connect with anyone who wants to connect with me.
Yeah, so that's a wrap on this episode, guys. You can connect with Ishita on LinkedIn and feel free to check us out at rcl.tpc. And we're signing off, so stay tuned for many more exciting episodes.